Hello everybody, it's been a while since my last upload, well, at least for me, but that's because I accidentally got addicted to reading through the Mistborn series. 12 days later, having finished all of Era 1, I was like, I know how to make games. I should make a Mistborn game. So I made a few plans on how to do that, but then I was like, wait, I seem to remember that there was already a game being made. So I looked into that game, which they call the Ashes Project's trailer and pre-alpha state, links in the description, and in my opinion, I felt like while the Ashes Project isn't going to be bad, I feel like it's missing a lot of opportunities that the Mistborn magic system and world provides. And since my game is nowhere near a thing I want to show at this point, the Zeroth Devlog is going to be talking about what I dislike and what we've seen about the Ashes Project, which admittedly isn't a lot, and how I want to try to fix those problems. Now, the first thing I want to make clear is no hate to them. The Ashes Project looks amazing, and their game's definitely going to be more accessible than the game I'm currently planning on making. I mean, just look at this menu. I made it to control the burn rate. It's chaos incarnate. Anyways, I feel like the game is going to be catered to people who don't really care super intensely about the intricacies of the magic system, which, like, fair, most people don't, but I do. And relative to a lot of fan bases, the Cosmere has fans who care intensely having minute control over the magic. Part 1. The Ashes Project. So, my first issue is how the Ashes Project didn't seem to let the emergent properties of the magic system exist or think fully in how the magic system works. Within the trailer, my first inkling that they might not think of exactly how the magic system works is how the coin is moving in this direction. No, really. The way that seal pushing and pulling works is that you have to push and pull it directly to or from your center. Clearly, this is stated in the book, and it's nowhere near moving that line, which makes no sense. If the coin was already moving, or Vin was moving, then this would be explainable because it would be kind of like how orbits get complex shapes just through pulling. And while this may seem nitpicky, and it definitely is, in my opinion, it shows a relative lack of care put into the very precise nature of the magic system we were given. And expanding on that, looking into the Ashes Project Steel pre-alpha gameplay, you can see three things. One, they mentioned in the comments that they were planning on making it so that you can have coins make it fall slower rather than stop mid-air and continue flying. Which, like, no! They very explicitly mentioned in the books that this is a very difficult thing that few Mistborns do, and the only time I remember seeing it in Era 1 was with Zane, who, need to remind you, had some hemalurgy to increase their elemental powers, and some people speculate that there was a steel amplifying spike. And again, definitely a nitpick, but still something that I feel like is I don't remember the specifics of a book inside and out, and yet I'm still going to make a game. Second, they simplified the allomantic leaps for city travel. It now works where you somehow just fly onto the lamps, which doesn't really make sense, and feels more like a Batman or Spider-Man mechanic than a Mistborn mechanic, which is further exemplified on their website when they say in the elevator pitch section, inspired by Insomniac's Spider-Man open world premise. But that's a lot less important than the other thing we can see. The game is third person. While this can't help with things like accessibility and ease of use, this, in my opinion, makes it way harder to have a complex movement system-oriented game with good controls, which is definitely one of the bread and butter of any good Mistborn game in my opinion. The book series is pretty much two things: high action fight scenes and high political intrigue. And perfectly segueing into my next point, assuming that the character in the Ashes Project trailer is Vin, which it seems reasonable to assume. I mean, it looks like exactly what Vin was described like: short black hair, mistcloak, and to my knowledge, Vin is the only Mistborn who consistently wears no shoes while Mistborn garb, and much more. But, in my opinion, using Vin, and as I assume, using the same characters and story in the rest of the Mistborn books, makes for a weaker second part to the Mistborn series, weakening the political intrigue greatly. We already know these characters, we've already heard their story. This is just retreading ground we've already used. There's a reason that the most popular Lord of the Rings game is Shadow of Mordor, a game that tells its own story, even if it's in the same world as the books. In my opinion, using Vim, presumably telling the same story, is a waste of potential with this concept. Now, I probably would not care enough to make my own game, except I can honestly find nothing from the past year about this game, which means that it's either a dead project or there's just no transparency. Either way, not being good for the project in the long run, and so I'm fixing that by making these videos. I plan to make them regularly. You know how plans are. They're not very efficient, especially when I'm trying to do them. But speaking of problems that I can go on to part 2, fixing the problems. For the problem of not using the magic system to the fullest, my goal is to implement just the magic systems, plus some optional convenience tools like visual indicators for bronze and tin, and a complicated system for steel, iron, pushing and pulling to make patterns. It's not important. But not to just have a move to belt that you can use when it seems like that's what the Ashes Project has, especially with the stopping mid-air effect. But I want to avoid making systems that inherently change how the magic system works. I want to give people options on how those work and let the effects of what people do be emergent, because I want this game to be as true to the books and magic, not story, obviously, as possible. But for the lack of a new story, I plan on telling a new story, or more accurately 3 stories, one for each type of magic, that's actually unique to the game and take place in alternate timelines, allowing you to actually battle with and win against Chaos Lord Ruler. Anyways, I should probably actually talk about my plans with the magic and stories in more depth. So, what to say in a short period of time? There, you can slow it down and read my notes. Anyways, for those who don't want to read 36 pages of notes, the main things are more story-oriented, where you play as Luthadel and been gifted by the remaining consciousness preservation, destroying the Shadow Spear in the process, or by Ruin, getting knowledge of one of the 3 magic systems in detail. In the first storyline, you play as Midern Hasting, a recently snapped Mistborn of House Hasting, either helping or destroying your house, with a complete knowledge of the 18 metals, including cadmium, bendalloy, chromium, nicrosil, aluminum, and duralumin. In the second storyline, you play as Tyndall, a Terraceman's steward under House Hasting, and a keeper unbeknownst to everyone, including themselves. After you get the knowledge of how to use ferrochemy with all of the metals, including the ones people don't know about at that point, you can either help the Synod or Ska rebellions. In the final storyline, you play as Isol, a Ska servant / cook under House Hasting, who gets stabbed in the back by a thief after they try to kill your kid and when you're going to get food Luthadel. The knife blade breaks off and acts as a linchpin spike for Steel Inquisitors. You are then taught by Ruin how to get more powers, and you can either help Ruin get free or help him stay locked up. Anyways, that's all for this episode. Next one should actually have some real gameplay footage, because I currently only have pewter, tin, and bronze implemented, which aren't really the flashiest metals to burn. Other than tin, which actively is hurting my eyes when I'm trying to use it, because I keep accidentally flaring it during the day. Signing off for hopefully not the last time, someone who is never on topic.